Alex Collier at Global Sciences, the 18th of March 2002. Hi. Before I get started, I want to give a quick blessing. Great Spirit, Isness, I give thanks for everyone that is here. We ask that they reach their homes and families in safety and that they all experience your incredible abundance and joy. Aho. It has been a while since I last talked, and I want to say that it is a real pleasure to be here at Global Sciences again. Is there anyone here not paying attention to world events? As you know, it is getting pretty weird. As they say in South Denver, the shit is hitting the fan. It is even going to get more interesting. There are all kinds of information available on the internet. There are all kinds of rumors circulating on the internet. Of course, the news is helping to propagate rumors as well as propagate lies and disinformation. It is even going to get worse. There is a lot at stake here. What I find so fascinating is that so many people that I run into have all the little bits and pieces of the puzzle, but everyone is having a very difficult time putting the pieces together. The reason being is that because this group is saying this, that group this, and that one saying that, etc. The only thing that I can tell you is that it is really time to invest in yourselves and listen to your own intuition. Many of you in this room have listened to your own intuition, which is why you have come to the Global Science and some of the other talks. If you continue to get information from outside on your own, you are going to get real lost very quickly, because none of this is going to make sense, and that is because none of this does make sense. It is absolutely crazy at its best. This is being done specifically so that we run in circles not knowing what the hell is going on. So, I have 1 hour and 15 minutes and 15 minutes for questions. I want to talk about some things, so I am going to go pretty quick. We are going to start with first is Nibiru, the object that is entering our solar system. What is it? Is it really there? Are there legions on it, etc., etc.? Well, yes. It is coming. Is it the actual planet Nibiru? No, it is not. It is intelligently guided. I also want you to look at the idea that 6 or 7 years ago, the Andromedans had said that on August 12, 2003, that all the regressive ETs were going to be removed from the planet. That is actually going to happen, folks, because there is no way that we are going to be able to get a handle on our governments, our own planet, our own society, and stop being manipulated unless in fact they are removed. I know that there are different speakers that just focus on the light part of them. I think that is just great because it is important to focus on the light. But, it is also important to know that we do in fact live in a duality. The entire universe, which is all the galaxies and most of the dimensions, are in a duality. For some reason, that is the way it was set up. We all have choices. We all have free will. Every decision we make moves us on a path or down another path or around a corner, or we go back to go and don't collect our $200. So, where we find ourselves today, or what I should say is where I find myself, as a lot of folks are saying, is, why don't they just intervene and fix it? Why don't the ETs just come down and fix it? I confess, I had a lot of things like that myself. Why don't they just come and fix it? It would be easier for all of us if somebody would just fix it. Now they are going to fix the regressive ETs. They are going to, because that is a piece that we can absolutely not deal with. We are in way over our heads. They have technology way beyond our comprehension. Even the stuff our secret government doesn't tell us about. So, we can't deal with that. But, I am going to address this issue first. What happens after August 12, 2003, if everything goes along as scheduled, if what I have been told is correct, if the regressive ETs are in fact removed from this planet, then what happens next? The aliens are out of here. The aliens have been in control of the royal families, the governments, and the banking systems, those that have had ultimate control of the planet and our minds. Then what? What are we going to do about our current governments? What are we going to do about our corrupt banking system? What are we going to do about our corrupt corporations that absolutely pollute the planet and hide reversed engineered free energy? What are we going to do about that? Are we going to take responsibility? What are we going to do about the CIA trafficking drugs to our children in our schools and in our country? We all know what is going on. It has been going on since the 70s, maybe even earlier. So, what have we been done about it? We've done, butkus, nothing about it. Why, the ETs? The benevolents are taking so long to intervene. Because we talk the talk, but very few of us are actually walking the talk, and the ETs know. They know us better than we know ourselves just by watching our habits, by watching the way we respond to world events, social events, and community events, basically apathy. It is everywhere, except in the Mideast. But it is to the extreme in the Mideast. That is why this isn't going to be easy. There are certain things that we the people have to take responsibility for. One of the items is our government. Am I anti-government? I am not. I am anti-corrupt government, I absolutely am. Do I think George Bush is a good guy? I think really deep down he has a good heart. But, is he in control? No. Neither was Bill, his dad, and John Kennedy. We haven't had a real president since Eisenhower. He warned us when he left office. Is anyone familiar with the Disclosure Project, disclosureproject.org? Read that and educate yourselves real quick about that. I won't go into that because that is somebody else's thunder. You should absolutely research that. It is literally the smoking gun that most of us that have been investigating enough for research have been looking for, the smoking gun. We have ex-government, ex-military, ex-intelligence, are telling the truth about ETs. Our government has been suppressing this information for over 50 years. What a shock and surprise, right? The fact that they have reversed engineered technology, free energy, and the fact that we haven't needed fossil fuel for over 40 years. What a shock! What a surprise! Here we are about ready to start World War III over oil. Here we are bombing the hell out of Afghanistan so we can make sure we set up a pipeline for oil when in fact we don't need it. Oil is not the real agenda. The real agenda is the extermination of specific races on this planet. This originally was an Orion concept. It came from star systems in the Orion group. These are things they did when they moved into different solar systems and star constellations. They would run across a race that was specifically psychic or specifically gifted in some way that is somewhat of a threat to them. This was also something they did when they moved into a star system and the genetic lineage was stronger than their own and they had a great deal of difficulty controlling with them. Essentially they would pick the weaker of the races, the ones that they knew they could control and exterminate the rest. This model was demonstrated twice on the planet Earth. First was the biblical flood of Noah and the second time on a much smaller scale was the Inquisition in Europe propagated by the Roman Catholic Church, which specifically targeted women. We are going to talk about that because much of the situation that we on Earth find ourselves in, other races have been in the same position. I am going to pick up on one specific race tonight, the Persians. It is imperative that you understand soon. The world is going to be cast into turmoil. That is by design. It is going to get us looking in a different direction. It is going to be economic. It is going to be terrorism. There are going to be nuclear detonations. According to Morani, the ETs are going to allow 2 here in the United States. I want you to think about that. 2 will go off in the United States. New York is still a target, New York City and Manhattan. I have a big problem with this, a very big problem. It was brought to my attention that the United States was the first to use them on innocent people and that there was to be some type of balancing so that we will in fact learn our lesson. I have a problem with that as well. But, nonetheless, whether I have a problem with it or not, I'm just telling you. That is coming. I absolutely don't want this to come. But it is always prudent to always prepare for the worst and always hope for the best. So what does that mean? That means we have to be very vigilant about being self-sufficient, about preparing ourselves, about being close to family, about old issues, about petty differences. It means basically start to form community, reaching out to friends, neighbors, and family. It is time to really to invest in ourselves, because our government is not going to help. The truth is, it is not our government. It was bought and paid for years ago. The reason I say this is because our solar system is loaded with spacecraft. A lot of you may see them at night moving through the sky. The fleets are moving through the sky in formation. Here in Colorado, we are blessed to have such a clear sky. The craft are all over the place. In fact, I was told about something that was following the moon around. A bunch of people saw it. It wasn't the Soyuz. It wasn't a satellite. They are here. They are buzzing our space shuttles. They are buzzing our airports. They are buzzing our military. They are buzzing everybody. You've got a disclosure project. You've got intelligence people who have reputations on the line telling you of this. Telling you, we saw this. Telling you, we saw bodies. Telling you, we reversed engineered technology, and private corporations have control of it. It is imperative that you get this if you are looking for credibility with your on this subject. There appears to be a movement that is trying to disseminate information, trying to get everyone caught up. The truth is, I don't think everybody is going to be brought up to speed. Our goal is 10%. Not 50%, not 60%, not 100%. It is 10%. We have to shoot for 10% of the consciousness of the planet to shift the other 90%. If we try to save everyone, we are just spinning our wheels. A lot of folks just don't care. Move out of the way. Start talking to those that do care. The ET piece is just a part of it. The sun is shifting. It is changing its frequency. The planets are changing. Their magnetic fields are changing frequency. Everything is changing. We are seeing a polarity of people throughout the world begin. The Mideast is just the beginning. I want you to know this is all just a manipulation. It is all a manipulation. It is literally the last stand for the regressive ETs that have had control of the planet for 1500 years. It is their last hurrah. I am specifically talking about some reptilian races. There are some human races from Alderaan, which is in the Pleiades. They are not nice guys. I am sick and tired of hearing, oh, the wonderful Pleiadians. There are 7 star systems there. One of them has a group that is just not worth a damn. The Alderaans were also the ones that helped the Nazis giving them technology, the Aryan race. We don't need to into that, you can figure out the rest. Volcanoes are going off everywhere because the planet is beginning to change. I know that there is a lot of good information out there about the frequency of the planet. It is our consciousness, folks. There is a huge shift. A huge shift, and I am not saying that this not of the photon belt. I am not saying that. This shift is coming from the sun in our galaxy and the universe. It is happening here. It is happening everywhere. Now these are positive things. These are extremely positive things. This shift in energy is an extremely positive thing, because it is movement, and that is what we need is movement. So many of us have been stuck trying to figure out what to do. How can we fix this? The minute we come up with an idea, something else happens. Now we are trying to fix that. We were just going around in circles. What we are dealing with here are 2 concepts of power. One is power over and the other is mutual power. Power over is controlling the world through fear, manipulation, intimidation, money, presidents, tyranny, homelessness, etc. This is all power over. Power over is a model of societal engineering from the star systems of Orion and Alpha Draconis. It is a polarity. It basically says that there is a hierarchy. There is an elite and everybody else works for them. Everybody is a natural resource like oil, food, minerals, etc. That is what we look at as natural resources. Well, they look at us as a natural resource. They look at us in the same way. Do you grasp this? Does this take you out of the box to know that someone looks at you as if you were a cow, a resource? It is really interesting that this model kicked in right after World War II, which incidentally was taught to the Germans by the Alderaans from the Pleiades. That is their model because they know that it works. That is how they control their people, or other star systems, is with this model. Money is the perfect instrument for that. I know that I have said this before in many of my lectures, about my contacts with Marinian Visayas, the Andromedans. You can get all this information from the website, lettersfromandromeda.com, all one word. There is also a book, Defending Sacred Ground, you can download. You just have to buy the paper. Look at it, read it at your leisure. You will pretty much find everything there with the exception of the updates. We'll be updating it soon, I promise. That was the power over model. The mutual power model is one that actually geared toward nourishing the soul. Developing the person from the inside/out. Not feeding the head with facts and figures that really don't help anybody grow up, that only turn us into robots and computers so we can only spit out facts. It doesn't actually help us change the world, change reality, change what we are. It doesn't nurture us, feed our souls into becoming more and more a part of physicality. All it does is create more conflict. I realize that I'm putting the ETs into 2 camps. Since I only have an hour and 15 minutes, it is easier to draw that line. Everything they do is to promote growth with the person, the being. Children are taught everything. Nothing is held back from the children. They are the ones that move on. They are the ones that inherit and then teach their children the standards that were taught them. Is it a wonder that we look at the world today and it is literally going to hell? Most parents are working, and who is raising the children? The public school system is. If you are watching it, Though the United States has gone from number 2 to number 25 in the industrial nations in the education of our children in just 40 years. Do you know how much you paid for that? $40 billion is what was paid to go from number 2 to number 25. Number 26 is not being the best, just in case you didn't know how the scale ran. Many people know this but aren't doing anything about it. Again, this is another issue of responsibility. Like I said, when you read the Andromedan's material, they are going to remove the ETs. Not just the Andromedans, but a coalition that is just sitting out there. They are going to remove them. Then they are just going to sit up there. We are going to see them and they are going to just watch what we do. They want to see how we are going to handle each other. They are going to see if there is going to be any real shifts. They are going to remove the ETs. They are not going to remove the royal families. They are not going to remove our corrupt government. They are not going to remove our corrupt global corporations. No, they aren't going to do that. Why? Because that is our responsibility. We created those monsters. We allowed them to get out of control, out of hand. We mismanaged our planet. It is easy to say, hey, I'm just a carpenter, I'm just a car salesman, what the hell do I know? Do you vote? 90% in this room don't. I know for a fact. Do you ever go to town meetings? Do you ever run for city council? I bet 90% of you would say no, even 95%. Do you ever go to school functions? Do you support the local schools? Do you go to the teachers' meetings to find out what they are talking about and how they are going to teach our children? We don't. This is what I am talking about. I do, but I am just one person and I can't do this alone. My wife thinks I am absolutely out of my mind for coming out and talking again. She's probably right. Wives are mostly right anyway. Coming to global science is great. Gathering information is great. Dwelling on it, meditating on it, rambling it around, trying to come up with solutions, is great. But what are you going to do about putting it into practice? That is the real work here. I have all kinds of people that contact me. They know everything. I talked to one guy that memorized the Encyclopedia Britannica. I was impressed until I spent the afternoon with him and realized that he didn't have an ounce of common sense, but he could remember what was on page 223 of the Encyclopedia Britannica. What good is the information if you don't use it, or apply it? It is frustrating for me that I can stand up here and give you all of this information and half of what is in my bag there. But, what would you do with it? It is information. Will you use it? What would you do with it? Will you apply it? Most of you won't. So, what is the point in giving it to you? Do you understand? I am expressing a real frustration that not only I have, but other speakers as well. It is time. What are you holding yourselves back for? You are awesome. Every single one of you is awesome. Do you all believe that there is a creator? Are there any atheists in this room? I mean down, cold-hard atheists? Don't be afraid, raise your hands. My next question is, if there is a creator and you believe that there is a part of you, a spark, even if it is only an infinitesimal speck of her in you, then what are you holding yourselves back for? This is it. We have Edgar Case's prophecies coming to life. We have other contactees information. There are other prophecies being fulfilled. The Book of Revelations is being fulfilled. We have all these other psychics, other writers, other gifted seers from the Middle Ages. What they saw is now beginning to gel. We are all beginning to see it. We're fulfilling the prophecies. Are you just going to sit there and wait? Suppose Jesus misses the planet and goes to another planet. Suppose he is late. Suppose he stops off for a cup of coffee and says, I got time, and then he doesn't get here in time. What if he doesn't show up at all? Then what? I don't want to be the only one up here talking. I don't want to have to do this anymore. I've done this for 13 years and I'm tired. I have a young family to raise. I'm in over my head. I have 2 sons, Brutus and Cassius. We're not parents, just referees. Parenting, I hope, comes real soon. They are good boys. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the deal. The bottom line is that we do not have control of our society. We do not have control of our governments. We have been literally disempowered across the globe. As a people, we think that as long as we got money in the bank and that we have gas in our cars that we are doing okay. That is an illusion. That's an absolute illusion. That could go away at any time. Talk to some of the older folks that have gone through the Great Depression. That could all go away, and it probably will. So what is the most important thing? That is each other and community. That means that we have to slip outside our boxes and reach out to each other. That is not always a nice thing. The Procyon are approximately 600 years more advanced than we are technologically. In that 600 years I include what the government, the secret government for a lack of better words, multinational corporations, the secret technology, reversed engineered technology that has been hidden from us. Here is a race that is 600 years more advanced than us. They were subverted the exact same way we are being subverted. TV, radio, the media, government, belief systems that absolutely were not real. They changed definitions and meanings of words that it meant one thing when I was a kid to something else that is completely opposite to my children. This causes more conflict and confusion. They did everything they could to make sure that the people who were righteous and moral were considered square and old-fashioned. To be decadent was then in fashion. I could go on, but you are intelligent and know what I mean. It took approximately 100 years to literally change enough generations that they couldn't remember what their ancestors stood for. Does any of this sound familiar? The New Jersey 5th grade textbooks talks about the forming of the United States. They have taken out all references to George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, not even mentioned. It is interesting that you can even go to that subject information and not mention those two. But, they managed to do it. The Procyons were suppressed. All thought was monitored with the use of technology, what we would know as satellites today. They implanted and branded every person on their planet they could find with a mark. The censorship of thought is literally what occurred. The entire civilization of that star system began to die. Its spirit was slowly being suppressed because their age limit was about 100 years of age, about 30 to 35 years more than the average here. The ET races that were there lived an average of 2,000 years of age. It was nothing to do a short tour of duty managing this solar system and this particular people, this race. They did this, controlling the planet. They took away all space travel because of its lack of natural resources. At that time they were using fuel, not petroleum, but something else that was flammable in the spacecraft. The planet ran out of most of their natural resources. So now, nobody had any way to get off their planet. They were then managed from moons in Procyon star system. Are you following me? Now, they have control of the high ground, so to speak. The Orion group is made up of 18 different star systems. The Orions are managing this particular star system. What happened was that a group of women got together and formed a women's circle. This planet is called Arvika without the negative connotation. In the women's circle, they got together, they talked, they prayed, and they meditated. They found out that whenever they got together in this circle they could make things happen. They could make things manifest. They could create opportunity. They would slowly bring in more women. They would start raising their daughters that way. They learned to hide the children from the system and raise them in this idea that they could in fact create and manipulate physicality with their minds, and it spread. It took approximately 134 years. That is how long it took to undo what had been done to them, 2 whole generations. Here on Earth it would be 3 or 4 generations. What they did was to start to teach some of the old ways. Many of the women became mediums. They began to tap into other consciousnesses that were sending information that had been there all along, but nobody was listening because they were too busy. Too busy buying more toys, more cars, more DVDs, etc. I am using that as an example. I don't know what they really had. But they were so focused on some external stimulus that they forgot about the inside. That was their downfall. They did not balance the two. We are exactly in that same place. We are not balancing the inside and the outside. We are not balanced on the inside and the outside, not at all. I'm not always either. The Procyons grew. The women formed circles all over their worlds. Their participating star systems connected with others through the use of these mediums, never doubting the information they were getting. I can't tell you any more about that because I don't know. Literally what happened was that they created the 10% shift in consciousness. The men, who were the most oppressed, the most controlled, the most beaten down, the most emotionally shut down because they had to be constantly in the warrior space to survive and take care of their families. The men lost their compassion, their sensitivity, and their intuitiveness. The men were virtually useless. It was very easy to push their buttons. When that happened, you automatically get a response, a violent response. This is opposed to taking a step back and saying, "Whoa, I am being manipulated." What am I doing? That wasn't happening. It was the women whom had the nerve, the guts, the strength, and the courage to step out of the bullshit and take a look and said that we need to something anyway. In the 134 years what happened was that they began to rebel. They became more intuitive. Men became more compassionate about their families. What happened was that they found soul. The entire star system of Procyon became one group soul again. Everybody was automatically on the same page. It wasn't about Joe, the next door neighbor. It wasn't about Louis across the street. It was about everybody getting the yoke of tyranny off their necks. It all came together in everything they did with the one goal in mind. To this day, the leaders of those worlds are women. The men have their role. They are still men. They have not been stripped of their manhood or anything like that. The truth is that the women make the most logic. They make the most common sense. They are the ones that have the babies. They know, guys. We'll never know that part. How precious life is and was. Will that work on Earth? I don't know. The Procyons at that point, once they started to rebel, their consciousness was projected out into space. The handlers were absolutely not prepared for that much of a unification of energy. They absolutely were not prepared for it. They were only trained to take it apart, and it wasn't working anymore. The Orion group was only trained to take it apart. Once it was apart, man had changed. The truth is, once the people decided that is enough, they pulled their energies together. They became one huge community within the star system. The Orions were absolutely not prepared for it. What happened then was that the Procyons called for help. The Pleiadians from Taygeta and a group of Moth people from Alpha Centauri showed up and helped them. I want you to know that there are at least 3 motherships in our solar system that are from Procyon. They volunteered. They know all about this group. They have been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. We are not the only star system that they have tweaked. Taking all that into consideration, the first goal is the issue. The issue is that we are not a community here. We have been taken apart. Does that mean that we have to see eye to eye on everything? No, not because we won't. But there is a thing about mutual respect. There is the idea that this is a small planet. It is our home. We only have so much water. We only have so much natural resources. Who controls it? Does it benefit everyone? You already know the answer to that. It is all about control, and you have no say-so about any of this whatsoever. There is an old song by Bob Dylan. I don't remember the name of it, but I do remember this line. In order to be honest, you have to step outside the law. That is kind of what it feels like. It still amazes me that people think that we are the only ones in the galaxy. There can't possibly be other life out there. What is even more baffling to me is that they can look at the world the way it is going and think that we have this great future coming, this marvelous future coming. We are running out of air, water, the polar caps are melting. All the governments are corrupt. Politicians are corrupt, and they still think this is it. This is awesome. I can't believe they still have more babies. I remember in a contact, we were talking about education. Vaside was telling me about how they educate their children. On their world, as is with many other worlds, teachers are the rock stars. They are given the highest honors in their society. They are the ones that teach the future generations. I have had a lot of time to think about that now that I have son going into kindergarten, my oldest. We're having to deal firsthand with the school system. It is scary, real scary. They are the first to admit that it doesn't work, but they are going to do it anyway. It is like you know that the car won't start, but you get in and try it anyway. You just sit there and try to turn the wheel. Here, the teachers are starving and we worship the rock stars, or the guys that plays in a band, or the guy that can shoot basketballs through this little hoop. That's who we worship, and you know we have some serious problems. I don't expect people to go out and save the world. That is not what I am asking for. I will tell you exactly what I am asking for. I am asking you to create the space to work on your inside, work on yourselves. That is the part of you that is going to be transitioning to another dimension. That is the part of you that leaves the physical body when your body dies. That is you, not this body shell. I want you to work on that and we'll get through this. You are awesome, just awesome. Reincarnation is a fact. I am not going to stand up here and try to prove it to you. You have to figure that out for yourselves. The soul goes on. It continues to educate itself. It experiences the extremes of emotion. It wasn't meant to sit in a chair and watch TV. That is not what it was built for. That is self-sabotage when you get addicted to outside stimulation. Sure, it is imperative to know what is going on around you. It is the manner in which you know it. Do you know it from what you see? What the conscious mind tells you? Or, do you know it from an intuitive place? That place is soul. Most don't, and it is really time to invest in that part of you. There is no right way to do it. You don't have to do yoga. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to get those little bells that go cling, cling, cling. You don't need to do any of that stuff. Everybody has their own thing. Me, I like to go for a walk. I want to be in nature. I want to be in the world. I want to get as close to an elk as I can. That's my thing. Walk like an Indian. That is where I find time. I am a much better person when I come back. You all have to create your own ritual, no matter what it is. Even if it's sewing or knitting, whatever helps you to get into the zone. It is imperative that you do that. World events, I am going to jump back to that. It is imperative, folks, that you watch Prince Charles. He is about to make his move. I talked about this back in 1996, and everybody was saying, "Oh my God, Alex. Look what happened to Diana." I didn't know about Diana. I didn't know that it was going to happen to her. What I have been told is that the Windsors are going to set themselves up in a position of power so that they can manage the United Nations. I'm waiting to see how that happens. You want to keep an eye on him and those big ears. The next thing I want to talk about is sharing wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of smart people in here, a lot of knowledge. A lot of your friends who are attending these type of lectures are doing the same type of research as you. There is an awful lot of knowledge in this room. We have to figure out a mechanization way for sharing this knowledge. Global Science is one of them. It meets once a month. Its resources are stretched, and we have to figure out other mechanizations, other ways to share knowledge on a weekly basis, on a bi-weekly basis, and on a daily basis. There is a lot of talk. A lot of people are conscious about the government. There are 3 million of them and 278 million of us. What are we afraid of? The fact is, they are the ones afraid of us. That is why they are trying to suppress us. Sure, it would be easy for Alex not to be of sound mind, stay at home, and not do anything. I have strongly contemplated that. Those who know me, those in my circle, know that to be a fact. This is my least fun part. But, I look at my children, I look at their friends, I look at my community, I look at children on the bus, and I can't help but going to that place. Am I really preaching what I teach? If I just sat at home and didn't do squat, if I just talked about it, threw a tantrum, threw Kleenex at the TV when something was said that I didn't like, would I be working my talk? The answer is no. I want you to know that it is the hardest thing I ever had to do, the walking and the talking. It is not easy. It is a huge responsibility. I don't want to be alone in it. I know that talking to others, that they don't want to do it either. There are a lot of the same faces here. When was the last time I spoke at Global Science? A year. 2 years ago. There are still a lot of the same faces. I think that is great. But more needs to be done. I don't know exactly how to do that either. But, I do know that if we all sat down with a cup of coffee and got in a circle, we would brainstorm and come up with some really good ideas. Ideas that are practical and logical. Ideas that we could actually do and put something into place that would not stretch our resources such as they are. So, I am open. I am game. If you tell me that you are going to have a meeting, I'll be there. I'll help. I will do whatever I can. I will contribute in any way I can. But, I don't want it to be about me. It is not about me, it is about us. The Mideast, they are going to create World War III, unless there is direct intervention. I hope that happens. Most of the Arab nations have been designated for extermination. So that would be nuclear. Most of it is going to be biological. The whole thing with Israel, and I know this is not good news to some of you. The whole thing is being manipulated from the royal families in Europe and the Saudi government. The Saudi government is also one of the old Roman Empire families. Let's not lose track of that. We are also going to have problems here in this country. It is imperative that you start taking care of your immune system. Start doing things about strengthening your immune system. There are a lot of ways to do that. Eat more live food. Eat lower on the food chain. If you don't like vegetables, learn to like them. The lower you eat on the food chain, the safer you will be. The higher it is, the more processed the food is. Read foreign newspapers. I mean that. If you own a computer, read foreign newspapers. Cancel your subscription to the Denver Post. You might as well use it on your arse. It is a waste of paper. Use the internet to read foreign newspapers. I mean that. If you want to know what is happening in this country, you have to go outside the country to find out. That is a fact. Colloidal silver, essential oils, herbal products, there are all sorts of things you can do to strengthen and build up your immune system. The healthier you are, the stronger you'll be and the more able you'll be to deal with the stresses that are coming when things do start to happen. Try to start drinking more bottled water or filtered water. It is imperative that you try to eliminate as much fluoride from your drinking water as possible. It has gotten so bad that the last number I heard was that 14% of high school freshmen were showing signs of Alzheimer's, and that is aluminum buildup on the brain. That, ladies and gentlemen, is coming from your drinking water. Your city tap water has fluoride in it. That is where it is coming from. The Germans introduced it back in the late 30s. They were using it in the concentration camps. That is what made the Jewish people so docile specifically in that, and that is how they did it. All furnished by I.G. Farben, the Rockefellers, all the safe players. Those of you that have children, do you know what they are being taught in school? That is a huge issue. Try to find out again in what is going on in your community, the city, state, and local governments. Get involved. Go to some of these meetings. I live in a small community here in the Front Range. I have applied for several positions where the people have left or resigned from city council positions. I have commented that I would like to have a seat on these boards. This October, I am going to run for city council. I don't know where I came up with this decision. We'll see what happens. Do your inner work. We talk about freedom here in the United States. I am always curious to find out what freedom means to people. Everybody has a different definition. We have a couple of different babysitters. One of them seemed real intelligent. So I asked her what she was doing in school. She said American history and the American Revolution. I said super, one of my favorite subjects. I asked her what she thought of freedom. She said that she thought it was great. I asked her to describe freedom to me. She said, I can get into the car and go to the mall. That was her answer. Then the air came out of my balloon. I hate to say this, but that is pretty common. People just really don't know. How many of you know? I am going to read you the Andromedan definition for those of you that have never heard it before. For those of you that have, you get to hear it again. This was given to me by the size. How this came about was that I asked him what our future was going to be like because I was very concerned and still am very concerned. This is what he told me. Responsible freedom of self-determination. Becoming truly self-confident and free. To unconditionally be responsible for oneself without being coerced to accept some higher authority. Ladies and gentlemen, the God of the Bible was an extraterrestrial. That is what it is all about. He is not the creator of the world, because he would not need a spaceship. The God who created the universe wouldn't have to nuke Sodom and Gomorrah. He wouldn't have the time. He wouldn't create all this then just pick one race and say, these are my chosen people. He couldn't be that stupid. So you know what I am saying? To create the entire universe, all the dimensions, all the star systems, all the galaxies, and just deal with one tiny little thing. Think about that. Many years ago, the Andromedans had mentioned pole shifting. To my knowledge, that is still coming. I don't know when. When this does happen, it is going to be a 17-degree pole shift. That is a fact, the poles will shift to the west. Which means that if it moves to the west, much of the Pacific Ocean is going to be in Grand Junction and the western slope of the Rockies, not to mention what is going to happen to the rest of the world. I want you to know that I have not been given any promises that I am going to be beamed up. I am not going to have a box seat on a starship. I am here just like you and I am concerned. I also want you to know that a good friend of mine who was in Europe said that special has been broadcast several times on the TV special by the National Geographic Channel about a group of doctors. A group of doctors in the United States that could not get their story told in this country. That story is the spread of tuberculosis in our inner cities. It is spreading like wildfire. The Andromedans said years ago that this was going to happen and most of the cities were going to be quarantined. Those of you that fly a lot might want to think about getting an Amtrak pass. Airplanes are nothing but a flying petri dish. So we have to really pay attention. We really have to pay attention. Those of you who know Joyce Riley and the Gulf War issues, there is a lot going on, but we are not being told anything about it. That is why it is imperative that you start getting your information and start tapping into new sources from outside the United States. The Europeans are telling it like it is. I spent 2 weeks in Paris this last Jan. And yes, I took a plane. The French cab drivers are assholes. They hate Americans, no matter who they are and how much they tip. It doesn't matter. Every night they talk about the United States. I couldn't begin to tell you I heard. I'm taking notes, writing things down. When I came I started researching it and it was true. There is not a word about in the United States. They are managing us very, very well. It sends chills up my spine knowing how well we are being managed. I just want to reiterate that. Planet X, August 12, 2003. Several months ago we posted an update regarding Nibiru. That specific group of Nibiruans were allowed induction into the Andromedan Council. The Andromedan Council is held in Andromeda. It is at last count made up from 173 star systems in our galaxy that are part of this. The Andromedans do not control it or manage it. They only hold the meetings there and serve refreshments. It is held in their system, their star system. The system of Zenitae in the constellation of Andromeda, not the galaxy of Andromeda. That is somebody else trying to muddy up those waters. A specific family of Nibiru has been given an induction into the council. That family is part of the lineage of Enki. Some of you have read Zechariah Sitchin. It is the Enki lineage. Jehovah or Enlil, they wouldn't even give him the time of day. Because the truth is, the guy is a psychopath. There is mental illness in space too, not just here. He, Jehovah, Enlil, and many others are stuck in the paradigm of control over. It is like any other addiction. It is a tough habit to break, trying to manage and control others. They do that because they don't trust themselves or others. They don't trust the movement of life and love. They have to control and manipulate. Every day we are in relationships like that. Whether it is in our thoughts, our relationships, our boss's thoughts, and in some cases, husbands and wives. Our kids are taught that in order to get what they want. We were taught that model, our parents were taught that model. Somehow we have to come together and figure out how to break that cycle. I want to take some questions now. Q, can you share how I, or someone could contact the Andromedans or the Procyon? What is the proper way to do that? AC. That is an excellent question. I can't tell you about the Procyon. I don't know them on how you could contact them. I myself have never met them. But, there are symbols. The ETs use 4th and 5th density language. It is holographic and numerical. If you could take the Chinese and Japanese, for those of you that know it all, you can take the symbol from the page and make it a 3-dimensional or 4th-dimensional model and spin it. It would make a shape and create a frequency, a vibration. That is how they talk to each other. Within that symbol are entire concepts of everything they have been taught and experienced about a specific meaning or phrase. The expression of love. I can only give you an example of the Andromedan language because that I have been taught other than the languages here on Earth. When they express or project into your head a symbol of love, instantly, thousands of pictures or meanings of the expression of love are given. It is instantaneous, like the snap of a finger. It is like watching a movie zip by your eyes. It is thousands of scenes or even more. It could be millions for all I know, all for what that expression means. It is everything that their mind has stored up for what that expression means given to you all at once. That is how they do it. Nothing is held back. It is not like we're having a conversation and I have to convince you that I love you by doing all sorts of things like, doing things around the house, washing and waxing the car, or take you shopping. Like when people go on a first date. The guy goes out of his way to be extra nice and vice versa. It is not like that at all because they are telepathic rays. There are no secrets. There are no lies. You see everything at once. So, if I was an Andromedan man and I was trying to get it on with an Andromedan woman and I gave her a quick projection of love, hand her a gift, or maybe in the back of my mind I am thinking that maybe I would like to sleep with her. She would know right off the bottom line. She would know exactly where I was coming from. She would dust me off like an old fly. It is because of a lack of depth. That is not to say that because I don't have depth or that you don't have depth. But, compared to them, we don't have a lot of depth. We are only operating on a 14% to a generous 20% brain capacity. Whereas, they are operating on a 65% to 70% brain capacity. When they have a conversation it is not only historical, it is has insight, philosophic, futuristic. It is everything all at once. That's why I love question and answer periods. I have so much data in my head I don't know how to tap into it. It is all wrapped up in those 14% crannies and corners. So the question was, the Andromedan, this is their symbol for their race. When they are introduced at councils, or to other star systems, their dignitaries when they walk into a room, this symbol is projected at everyone so that everyone knows who they are. Somewhere written in this symbol is their history. Who they are and what they represent. For telepathic races, this is all they need. This is their business card, an email, your driver's license, your spaceship license, all this for a specific race. If I am an Andromedan and I project this symbol into your head, you will automatically know who I am and where I come from. You will not only see the star system, you will know its history, its probable future, and its present time in an instant. I think it would be totally cool if we could all do that. You know why? Because all the BS would go away like a bad habit. Q, are you making a distinction when you speak about beings from Orion? Are you classifying them all with one group? AC. No. The Orion group is specifically 18 different groups within the Orion star system. Q, what do the Andromedans say about the crop circles? AC. They say it is fifth dimension geometry. It is a language specifically for the ETs that are already here on the planet or underneath the planet. Although, we are getting something out of it as well. Q, I have heard that 1 out of 40 has been transponded with a chip. Is that true? AC. Not to my knowledge. Q, what are some of the things that the people in Europe are telling you that you have checked out? AC. Most of the Europeans discuss American politics. That is a favorite subject of theirs. Especially how the United States has thrown its weight around for years. Even since the United States dollar has become the world's reserve currency. They talk about how many American corporations are very corrupt and very tyrannical by their nature. They talk about how our fiat money system, the Federal Reserve banking system, is going to collapse around the year 2003 or 2004. The Europeans were thrilled when they heard that they were going to form their own currency. Their own United States of Europe, and have a percentage of their own euro dollar backed up by gold so they can stick it up the Americans you know what. They can't wait to do it. It was also asked while I was on a train in Zurich, if all Americans were like those that are on the Jerry Springer show. Are you really like that? As I was laughing I said no. I don't know why they showed that crap on TV. You think that they would know better. But, that is how they view us. But, at the same time, America has done some great things. I also heard a story while in Paris about some kids that were arrested screaming, "Aren't you going to read me my rights?" The police replied that you have no rights. The kids yelled back that they did because they saw it on TV. The French police would say that is only in America. America still has a lot to offer the world. America is still in a position to teach. But, it requires management on our part of our government. If we abdicate management on our part to a group of international bankers, we are screwed. We are in a tough spot. This venture into Iraq is going to be very scary. The chickens are coming home to roost, they really are. This is not a good idea. I think we should give the Mossad $1 million and say, go get them. Let the Mossad do it. They know what they are doing. Cue the ET removal of August 12, 2003, will we witness this and recognize this? AC. Yes, you will absolutely witness it. You will see the ships leaving from all over the earth and from the oceans. You will see ETs, particularly those of a reptilian in nature, walking on the surface of the planet. They are going to be flushed out of the inside of the earth to the surface. You will also see starships coming into the upper atmosphere to capture them and take them out of here. It is going to be like the Brian Star Wars. I sincerely hope and believe that it is going to happen. We need a serious shift here. The ET intervention is specifically to take the ET piece out of here. The intervention is not to solve the problems that we as a society created. That is our responsibility. I want to make a very clear distinction about that. We are going to have to take responsibility for not taking responsibility. I believe in harnessing the power and energy we have here. How can we plug into some of this greatness that you spoke of this evening? There was a conference held in Arizona last week in which there were Chinese, Japanese, and some Russians, all scientists that came together without any money being given by their governments. Of course, the pharmaceutical companies were not happy about this conference. They were talking about alternative ways to cure cancer and other diseases. They were going to put forth a consortium of people to pool their knowledge, etc. How can we tap into that? AC. I'll address two issues there. Intervention has occurred several times already. As far as cancer is concerned, the best way to prevent and cure it is to deal with the acidity in your body. In other words, watch the pH levels of your body. Cancer is a disease that will not grow in a body that is alkaline. When the body is too acidic, that is when disease sets in. Acidity is food combining. It is eating too much red meat. Eating too much processed foods. It is not eating enough live foods. That is the secret. Watch the pH balance of your physical body. As far as reaching out to this greatness, you are great. Everyone here is great. We just have to create the space to come together and start walking our talk. We need to stop our petty nonsense. The Native Americans practiced getting into a circle whenever they would discuss decisions that would affect the entire tribe. They would project 7 generations. Every decision they would discuss how it would affect, as best they could, the next 7 generations. That is wisdom. That is very serious wisdom, because they would not do quick fixes that would come back to haunt them in 10 or 15 years later. In closing, I want to quote something that Vasai's told me years and years ago. We are our own inheritance. Thank you all very much.